Hi, I'm Jim.
And I'm David.
And this is the Practical Guitarist Podcast.
The podcast for people who eat, sleep, and breathe guitar. Hi, Jim.
Hi, David.
That laugh, you know what that means, guys. That means Jim's number one.
I am number one in Dave's book.
Always.
Every week.
Let me tell you, today and many days, Jim and I have conversations via Facebook Messenger pretty much all day long, off and on. And Jim lately, man, you just been like sending me shit like you're like angry or something. I don't know what the deal is. I didn't do nothing to you, man. I'm telling you.
What?
I didn't do anything to you. I didn't.
I wasn't angry.
I'm just saying the messages come off angry, and it's like I don't know if you're angry at me or if you're just angry at the world.
I've had a bad few days.
You're just mad because John McCain died. I get it.
That was part of it. Actually, it wasn't. But so we had some drama, as happens in bands, and now our band is no more.
Oh, so you guys actually officially disbanded now?
Yeah. So I thought I told you that.
Oh no, I did. Well, so I kind of inferred that would happen, but I didn't know it had. Yep. So now that that's done, how do you handle like your remaining dates?
So the two of the guys, we had a 4-piece band. 2 of the guys are going to continue as a duet. The bass player and the other guitar.
Duet. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I know. Instead of saying, "Hey, how about a trio?" Anyway, without a drummer, we don't need one.
Jim, you're a one-man army. You're fine.
I am. So they're going off, and I'm not. Believe me, I'll get a little more into it. So they're offering to do the duet thing. So if the place wants to bring them in as duet, that's fine. If not, so I'm going to go solo. And if I find somebody to add into it, I will. But I'm just going to do, a solo thing. And the guys that are doing the duet, they said, "Hey, look, on weekends we're not using the gear. You can use the gear, the PA and so on and so forth. And bring it over."
That's nice of them.
Yeah. Hey, helps me out. Around here, I can work right through until through and including Thanksgiving and of course into Christmas. I could easily do 4 or 5 days a week if I wanted to. Yeah. So it's not like I can't just go throw my demo to there's a lot of booking agencies here, and I can easily get the work. So it's not that big a deal. It's just a little more. It was first I was sad and I was angry because the drummer left, and I'll go ahead and throw him under the bus because fuck him.
Jim's going through some shit.
Yeah, I mean, he came in, and I went there and I got my stuff because he's like, "Yeah, I'll take you guys through the end of the year." And we're like, "Yeah, we're not going to rehearse at his house anymore." So I went to his place and I got all my rehearsal stuff and I brought it back to my house. And while I'm there, he volunteers because I didn't ask him anything. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just going to take my stuff, get the hell out." He volunteers that, "Oh yeah, I'm starting a new band that does all the same material, only we're going to do it better, and we're going with a booking agency." Yeah. I'm like, "You son of a bitch. You told us you didn't want to do a booking agency because it was too many days, and you didn't want to, and now you're going to go and do all the stuff you told us you wouldn't do with us. Fuck you." It's like having a woman that goes, "I really liked you, but I wished you were taller."
Yeah, I wanted to fix you and I couldn't.
Yeah, I wanted to fix you and I can't, so screw you. I'm off with this better man.
All right. So just being the outsider here, Jim, you don't really have to give the whole story, but just being the outsider here, and I've never heard this stuff coming back and forth in these Facebook messages over the last couple of weeks, and honestly, my impression of this whole situation is you guys sat down at the beginning and you did what every good band should do when they form, is they have the discussion of like what everybody actually wants. Right. And if somebody's not in line with that, they need to speak up then.
Yep.
Or forever hold their peace. But what it sounds like is you had like 3 other guys who didn't give a shit about like what the rest of the group wanted. and then they were just going to secretly like usurp it or network and get out of it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, well, no, the other guy usurped it, and there was this guitar player that would show up at our gigs in the beginning, and he had no social skills. He wouldn't look you in the eye. He was that guy that always looked at his feet when he was talking to you, or looked over, at the side. Yeah, and so now he's going to work with that guitar player. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to do great. I'm like, you know what? I don't care if you do great. I don't care if you do shitty. It's just we could have done this together. And that's the thing about adults. And those of you who are in cover bands, obviously, and who do this thing, when they say no drama, first thing you know is there will be drama.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
There's nothing you can do about that. That's going to happen regardless. It goes back to that whole hired gun thing where, I'd rather be a hired gun. It's really easy to find great hired guns. It's super difficult to find guys that are worth it because they can get along. Like that's the hard part, is finding people with the right personalities to get the job done.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen often. I was in a country band for several years. And when they brought their bass player back, because I replaced the bass player, when they said, hey, Jim, we're going to bring the bass player back, they didn't say, we don't need you anymore. You know what they did? They kept me. And they put me over. They said, you can continue to play guitar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
We
have in our area, we have a couple of bands, and they get hired a lot. And I actually know one of them pretty closely, where they don't actually have an official like band roster. It's like maybe I think it's just two of the guys. It's the drummer and the bass player, and the bass player happens to sing. And they go around these places, then they just hire a guitar player and a keyboard player to sit in with them. And dude is hysterical because they're freaking great. Because really, what do you if you're a dance hall band like at the club selling for beers and while people dance, what do you need? You need a good rhythm section, right? So that makes sense. Like I don't know why it never occurred to me why more bands don't do that, but then that gets over all the scheduling problems. As long as they want to play, like they can find somebody to fill in.
It's like you were saying, a party band is one thing, and that is they bring the party.
Right.
You have to have a positive attitude while you're up there. Your smiles and
you got to be funny.
And, right. The front person, it helps if the front person is good looking.
Right.
If you're a man, you're tall. If you're a woman, you're female. I mean,
are you saying Phil Collins is out of the question here?
Yeah, Phil Collins. I don't know how the heck.
He's the most unlikely rock star on earth.
He is, and if you watch South Park, he's definitely not a likely rock star. But the thing that you've got is that like I said, it helps for men. It really is the exact opposite of what most people would think. What most people would expect, I think. And that is you can have a band, a cover band, and if you can just get a girl, she doesn't actually have to have any talent whatsoever. And that's just sad, by the way. But it's reality. I'm just going to throw out reality here. She can just stand there.
The tambourine girl.
Yeah.
We've all heard this. We've all heard this and seen this. When you go into a bar and there's a band playing and there's some girl that looks like she's singing backup vocals and banging a tambourine all night. Yep. She's just there to stand there.
Her microphone is not on.
In a lot of cases, it's not. I mean, yeah. Or if it is, it's out of tune, and you're like, "What the hell is this?"
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of talented and excellent players. But the thing is that let's face it. When you look at as a whole, you go out there. A female-fronted band will bring in people, and it's because I think. Of course, I'm not a woman. I think it's because women, I think, have a easier time relating to that front person that is a woman than they do to a male front person.
Maybe. I think it's also so. I'm trying not to be gender biased, but when you're in school and people want to do choir and chorus and those kinds of things, those are typically female dominated activities. At least they were when I was in school. And I'm sure that's changing now because the roles of gender equality are obviously changing rapidly. So yeah, I mean, I could certainly see like, oh, it's easier to pick up, a female singer who can do these tunes because they have the actual musical talent to begin with, since they were trained on it when they were in high school, and maybe they kept singing, semi-professionally or something afterwards. I could definitely see that transitional thing. When we were first starting our bands, like in high school and stuff, like a lot of what we were trying to do was recruit kids out of either choir or people that sang in church. Like, those are all things that we did because we were like, these people at least know how to sing. Actually, my band, we tried to recruit people that were wild and crazy. That was kind of our thing. But we were hit and miss on that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then you have, so I've been in several male and female fronted bands, and I've been the front person for bands. And it always helped when the stage was a little higher because I'm really short, but when you get out there, it's all about the front person having a connection with the audience. And I just think that people in general find female front persons easier to connect with, honestly. I mean, when it comes to your audience.
Maybe now, it's more inviting or something. It's probably something subconscious about it.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of, incredibly talented women out there that are doing it. But there are a lot of bands that just use women and it's unfortunate, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I'm certainly not saying, I'm not condoning this behavior.
No.
They're like, yeah, you just stand over here, look good and dance, and the band will do without, we just need you to get people in the door.
Right. I can't think of like a lot of those female fronted acts locally that don't have that kind of situation going on where it's like you're only here part of the time. And then my personal favorite is when like the male lead singer comes up to sing a couple tunes, and then she's nowhere to be found because she's not playing keyboards. She doesn't pick up a acoustic guitar and accompany him. Like, it's like,
nope, she's off having a beer or a cigarette.
Yeah, it's like, get out of here now. We don't need you. It's really weird. I always thought that was an interesting dynamic. But we decided on a topic this week, Jim. I think we probably should get to it.
And speaking of that, it's what's in your gig bag.
Yep, what's in your gig bag?
What's in your gig bag? So let's talk a little bit about the things that are always in a gig bag, right? And I should preface this with something that is, if you're going to do it, what's in your gig bag thing, you should always talk about what are you doing? Because that's going to...
Yes, it makes a major impact.
Right.
So for me, I would say probably 95% of the time my gig bag's either going to a rehearsal or it's going with me to my parents' place where I have my big amps that I can turn up. I have a good fortune of having a condo myself and having them live like less than a mile away. Excuse me.
Wow, you could walk over there.
Yeah, I do walk over there, in fact. So the gig bag often is on my back. But basically, I mean, you're going to find in my gig bag, you're always going to find an extra strap. You're going to find a tremolo bar. You're going to find a set of strings, a tuner, usually a clip-on tuner, but not always. And then
it's not a tuba.
Yeah, it's not a tuba. And then maybe a fuzz pedal. And that's usually just what I throw in before I walk out. I don't carry a gig bag super often on my back. And I have the Helix, and that goes in a separate bag. And that's a gig bag too. Like, that's why I carry my cables in. That's what I carry. Any extra tools I'd need. I usually have a set of strings in there. All my picks go in there. The picks I use, I've been using these Dunlop stubby triangles, which if you've never seen them, they're huge. And I think they're 4 millimeters thick. They're the fattest thing I've ever seen. Jim used to play bass with them.
Yeah.
But they're massive. And it's so funny because like I went back to try to play my Dunlop 2 millimeters or even the because I use V-Picks as well. I have the V-Pick red triangles. I have like 7 or 8 of those. And I have some I have a gravity pick, and then I have, which the gravity is a triangle as well. I'm big on the smaller triangles. The stubbies are huge. I picked those other ones. They're dwarfed, like, and I can't use anything else now. But yeah, that's why I carry picks in my bag, because I always have, like I have the higher end ones that I want to use more often, and I don't carry them on my pocket or anything because I lose them. So it makes more sense. There's some of those V picks are like $7 or $8 a piece. Actually, I think some of them are up to $20 a piece. I don't buy any of those, but I just throw them in my bag, and that's the only way I can keep them. That being said, I do like to carry like either a multi-tool or a knife with me. You never know when you need it. Tape, that's another thing. I used to carry masking tape. I haven't been real good about that in the last couple of years. But the masking tape's for labeling things, and usually a Sharpie. You got to have a Sharpie. It's a flashlight.
Yep.
But other than that, like, I don't really carry a ton. I mean, it's kind of a little mini tactical bag. There's no gun in there or anything like that. Which I know guys that have gone to gigs with guns in their bags. Because like they're either in a rough neighborhood or that was just the way the blues guys used to do it years ago. They used to carry a bag carry a bag with a gun in it just because if the promoter decided they weren't going to pay them, they could threaten them. There's a big story that Joe, I guess it's Joe Barden told on Amps and Axes, where he talked about going on the tour bus for the first time, and it was I want to say who was it? I don't remember who it was, but he got paid, and they had like a briefcase full of cash that was like chained to basically what was a stripper pole in the back of the bus, and in the briefcase full of cash was like a 38 special, because they didn't know what the hell they were going to have to get themselves into. Was it Peter Grant? Yeah. I think it was Peter Grant that was the manager for Led Zeppelin that allegedly carried a baseball bat around just in case, like.
Yeah, they used that in
Almost Famous.
What was the movie? Spinal Tap.
Oh yeah. That was something that they actually used to do. He used to carry it around, and like he would have it on his shoulder or whatever, and he'd be talking to people like, just so you know, I'm in charge.
Yeah, and then this is Spinal Tap. It was a cricket bat.
Yeah.
To make it funny.
Right. But it might have been cricket bat for real. They are British. But yeah. So I mean, what do you got in your bag, Jim?
All right, so I pretty much have a mirror image of everything I have on stage, believe it or not. So I have tubes for my amp, which not crazy about changing them on the spot, but sometimes you might have to. Of course, they're not adjusted, so you have to do that later. I carry fuses. I always have, these are some things that you probably do have, but you left out. But then again, you're going to your parents' place or your.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gigging. If I was gigging, I'd have a box of tubes and that kind of stuff too. So.
Yep. So I have extension cords.
Yep.
Power conditioner. I have a Furman power conditioner that sits at the end of it. An extension cord. It's not the perfect thing, but it does the job because you don't want things to get blown up.
I think they were selling those for like $29 at Sweetwater Gear Fest.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, I got to get me another one.
Yeah, I hope they do it again next year because I'm going to buy like 2 or 3.
Obviously, XLR cables of different lengths. I usually keep a 5, 10, a 15, and a 20. Same with guitar cables. You know why? Because I might get to the place and a 20-foot cable is just too much. Mm-hmm. Or I get to the place and a 20-foot cable barely makes it. So I'll put a 5 at the end of it. And of course, for the back of the amp, same thing. So I have various, like I said, various XLRs, various lengths of guitar cables. Same reason. I always, I bring a speaker cable, but I always put a piece of colored electrical tape around it to indicate that that's speaker cable. Because like we said before, you don't want to use your speaker cables for guitar because you won't hear much.
Yeah, I always make sure that my speaker cables look nothing like my guitar cables. Not that it's just a label like that, but even the ones I buy are like way bigger, thicker, beefier.
Yeah, that's what I have too. And then, but I like to just make sure. And then, of course, you don't want to use a guitar cable for an amplifier. The other things I keep, obviously, strings. I try to keep a set of 9s and 10s in the bag just in case. Not because I'm thinking, wow, I want to change my guitar. It's just that, like, oh, geez, my string broke and I've got a lot of tension, so I need to get some 10s to pull the neck up. I may as well just wrap some 10s on it when I'm there or whatever. A string winder.
I don't say I've never needed that. All my gigging guitars have locking tuners.
I have locking tuners.
Yeah, I don't need it then.
But except for the SE that doesn't have locking tuners. It's got locking tremolo. The locking trem system.
Oh yeah, fuck that. If you break a string, you're screwed anyway.
2 flashlights. I always carry 2. You know why? Somebody borrows it when you're trying to use yours. Somebody wants to borrow it.
I just never use mine.
I should tell them. Yeah, I should tell him to fuck off. That was my drummer from before, by the way. Yeah. So that's for him. So I usually have a couple of flashlights. Plus, you never know when a battery goes out. Batteries, I carry 9-volt double A's, triple A's, because I have one of those an iPad page turning thing, and that uses AAA batteries. And you got stuff that uses AA batteries, use your flashlight, things like that. That's pretty much it. I have an extra, like I'll have a distortion cable in the bag just in case my distortion cable goes out, or maybe distortion pedal goes out. Stuff like that. I carry a second vocal mic. I always carry, even though I haven't been using it, I brought my 1x12 cabinet just in case, and an SM57 or E609, and short mic stand for that. So yeah, I kind of try to double up.
I'm looking for something here real quick. I wanted to bring this up to the group. So if any of you guys use Amazon, I'm sure everyone does at some point. So I get shipping notifications. They're texted to my phone, and I get this one this afternoon for something that was delivered. And there's a point to this. Just trust me. So I'm in the middle of Year No Gear, and I'm standing in the hallway, and I'm looking at my phone because I'm like, well, I didn't order anything. What did my wife? This is crap. I look down at my phone and it says, delivered your Amazon package with Youth Lab Radiance Roller Germanium Stone Uplifting Face. So what do you think when you think Germanium Face? Right?
Yeah.
So then I'm like, my wife bought me something. She was being nice to me. And so I logged into the Amazon app to see what it actually was. And I look, and it's a stone uplifting face massage device.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Germanium? What the hell? What has it got germanium in it for? What in God's name? There's some sort of powder in this thing or some shit that's germanium. I'm like, fuck.
I saw that. I saw that on her page. She posted it, and I said, what the?
I about lost it. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I had a moment. I was like, my wife actually, she feels bad about Year of No Gear. No, she don't give a fuck. Like,
no, she didn't. I'll tell you what. I saw her post it on the website, and I saw the shape and the size of it, and I went, I wonder what that's for. But anyway,
no, it's not what you think it is, and it's not even that size. But it's funny. Like, I want to back up for a minute because I'm like, oh, my wife doesn't care. Listen, my wife understands the sacrifices I'm going through. I did want to give her a congratulatory thing. She finally finished her cosmetology school, which has been a big thing in this household. It's kept me from doing a lot of things, kept her from doing a lot of things, right? In the last 2 years. So it's a huge deal to have her do that. And so congratulations, Miranda, Mandy. Yeah. We really appreciate, everybody bearing with me when I get these episodes in late and all that stuff, because it's usually somebody related. Because
you're going through all.
I'm burning the candle at 4 different ends.
Yep. So speaking of that, so with the solo thing coming in, and I do carry picks. I usually have packs of them. I'll show you. I have what's a cool thing to get for a lot of your small stuff. Don't go out and buy these guitar centric things. Go to Walmart or something. Get one of those little tackle boxes or even the little ones that are, it's not a full on box.
Or the
You put all your
container store.
picks. Yeah.
I love the container store.
Yeah, these little plastic things. And so I keep whole brand new sets of my Jazz 3s in the gig bag.
Those tiny little fucking picks.
Yep. I use these.
You're gonna laugh if I come out there this year. I'm bringing one of these stubbies with me.
I'll tell you. So I use the stubbies for playing bass. And
I play better with these than I do conventional size picks.
I can't use a big pick. It feels like I've got a dinner plate in my hand.
Well, you know what it is? I can exaggerate my arm movements and my wrist movements, which is actually easier tension-wise, and so it's ergonomic.
Oh. I should, when we play together, I should check that out, because honestly, I take the exact opposite. I have very small movements, very tiny.
I've gone completely the other way. Like I was trying. So if you guys remember, if you go back 8 or 9, well, probably 20 episodes now, I was going through this thing where I was like trying to get my playing in order and trying to reduce picking motion and all this. And then I finally just said, fuck it, this is too hard. And like I can already play really well now, so obviously I'm doing something right. And lo and behold, now I'm using giant picks, and yeah, it's a whole other thing. And I've also changed my string gauges, Jim.
Now, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about string gauge since we're moving along. What gauge strings are you moving to and from?
So I was using a standard set of 10s. And I'm going 10 to 56 now. I'm going to the big guys.
Yeah, so you're using a really heavy bottom end.
Oh, I'm using heavy strings for Fenders anyway. Most people are playing 9s on Fenders, at least the ones I find. And there you will find people playing 10s. I'm like not in the minority. I mean, it's probably 50-50. I would say anything above 10 is basically heavy, and you're going to have a hard time finding people that are using them. But the 10 to 56 set, it's mostly because for some of the stuff I'm playing, actually, and it's going to sound really strange, but I find it to be less woofy. Using fatter strings, it's something to do with not the tension, but the because the tension stays the same, but it's the I don't know, the diameter or something, and then the way the thing vibrates. But I'm not getting as much as the warble and woof that I used to get out of the same pickups. And it's not. Really? I haven't changed brands of strings, so I don't think it's the material. I think it's literally the fact that the strings. I'm trying to think how to describe it. Their elasticity. There's less elasticity, and I think so. The tension's the same. The tension actually doesn't change. It's just the elasticity. How bendable is the string? And that's what I think they're less bendable when you go up in gauge, and so it doesn't have as much path, which means the pickups change how they interpret the sound. So correct me if I'm wrong. In the group, if somebody wants to speak out and say that I'm out of my mind, go right ahead. Right. I'm all for it.
Well, I know when you pick a string, the string moves in a circular fashion.
An elliptical path, right?
Right, an elliptical movement. And that's what the pickup picks up. I'm wondering, given the fact that the string, because we're looking at magnetic pole pieces, and so we're creating that elliptical pattern, changes the magnetic field.
Right.
That's what we're picking up. I'm wondering if the gauge of the string being big enough is actually being seen, even though the elliptical turn is more, as a smaller path. Not sure.
That's what I'm wondering, because the elasticity
the
elasticity is obviously reduced.
Yeah.
With a thicker string. I just learned that the other day, by the way. I always thought it was like more tension or less tension. So I'm not a god. I don't know everything. And it turns out, actually, the tension doesn't change. It's the elasticity of the string based on the gauge. It still has to be under the same tension because that's what determines the string's pitch. So it's the same tension forces, but it's the elasticity.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was under the assumption, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why is it that when you put a heavier gauge string on a Lloyd Rose, that the string pulls, the spring is pulled more?
Yeah,
given the change in because that's tension.
Because you're messing with the equilibrium of the springs at that point. and so that bridge is under elastic tension from the spring. I mean, is my understanding. So if you don't, well, I guess what you're saying is right.
If it's static, then that's tension. The static position would be the tension. I understand the elasticity.
So here's the question I'll have you pick in your brain. If you change, we need somebody with physics knowledge to get in on this, because if you change, so on a Floyd Rose guitar, like let's say if you've never had a Floyd Rose guitar, if you break your low E string, right, and it pops and you tear the winding, the bridge is gonna tilt
back.
Down. Yeah, it tilts back, right? So the whole bridge goes sharp.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
And that's because the springs are no. That's why, Jim. Because you don't have a string on there at all. That's why. So if you put a new string on, it doesn't pull it back exactly the same, and that's what Jim's getting at. And I wonder if that's because you didn't adjust. So, like, let's say if you put the same gauge string on there, it should pull back in tune, right? And I correct if I'm wrong, but I've done that, and that's worked out.
Given no change.
So if you put a lighter or heavier
in the gauge of the string.
So if you put a lighter or heavier gauge string on there, that will affect the angle of the bridge one way or the other.
Absolutely. It changes the tension.
Right. But I wonder if
that tension is measured by the springs. The springs are it's an analog measurement, and it's not exact.
Well, but that's the thing. But that's the thing, Jim. If you change the gauge of string, you're changing the force back to those springs.
Right.
So I mean, it has to be tension.
Yeah. So who told you the tension doesn't change?
Well, let me now.
Don't tell me you found it on the internet.
Now we're gonna Google this. No, it's actually a luthier somewhere on YouTube.
I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong because, anyway, a couple of things that folks don't really think about when they're setting up their guitars and deciding on gauges is that a heavier gauge string with a higher off the neck, rather than closer down rather than lower action, will give you more sustain or more length of note than when you use a smaller gauge string with lower action. And that's just because of what you were talking about before, that elliptical pattern of the movement of the string. That's what I figured you were doing by getting heavier gauge strings and going into that thing. As long as your tuning is the same,
it still affects the elliptical pattern regardless.
Yeah, it's going to affect the elliptical pattern, but the fact is that you're going to get a bigger elliptical pattern because now the thing is larger, the string is larger, and by having a little bit higher action, which you have to do as a result of having the string, the heavier gauge string, then that's going to give you more movement of the string, thus a bigger sound and typically more. Go ahead.
There's a thing called tensioning compliance. String tension is completely defined by three factors: the pitch the string is tuned up to, its vibrating length, and mass. And I'm reading this off a website, some Luthier Alliance page. Those interested in the formula by which those factors are related to pitch should take a look at the page on the website. About string tension, conventional wisdom is that a number of other factors affect string tension. Some are length of the instrument, length of string, breakover angle, etc. When these are all things we know. So they call it tensioning compliance, is what I'm seeing here. And so there's a whole study on this stuff. String tension related information. So if you guys want to look, you can Google around and you can find out about this. What my understanding is, because the bridge is now unified under the string tension of the other strings, you're not balanced with a single string. You're balancing the whole bridge's tension against what's going on with the springs in the cavity. So that would be why if you snap a string, the whole bridge is going to be out of whack. But
absolutely.
But the thing is, even if you unless you go to a lighter gauge string, you should still be able to pull it back in tune, and then you have to tune up all the rest of the strings, and then it should be even.
But that's just it. lighter gauge string is going to change. Anyone that's ever used a Floyd Rose will tell you when you put lighter gauge strings on, even if just
it's not just the Floyd Rose. It's any floating tremolo system.
Right.
But
you're gonna change that bridge.
Well, but that's because all of the strings are interconnected. So you're no longer dealing with an individual string at that point. You're dealing with if I tune all those strings back up to pitch, that bridge will be even. It will be even because they're not at pitch, right? So you don't have the same amount of tension pulling against that bridge anymore. That's why. Which, okay, that makes sense. So I don't understand where they're getting this thing that like elasticity is different than tension.
Right.
Maybe they're saying that maybe I'm misinterpreting this whole argument and thing. They're talking about and if I remember in the clip specifically, they're talking about string brands, right? And they're talking like Ernie Ball, Super Slinkies versus whatever else. And they're saying that Super Slinkies are more elastic, but they'll be under the same tension as the other strings. And the elasticity is obviously, if you've ever used Super Slinkies versus other brands of strings, they are definitely more pliable under the same amount of tension.
But that's given that the gauge of the string is the same.
Right. Oh, and that's the way it should be. I mean,
right. That's the logic. I mean, I don't know if anybody is.
I think I'm just misinterpreting what I read, or what I saw. I think I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, possibility. So we got to change. We got to change gears. That's really boring.
Yeah, but not only boring, but just not even useful.
No, not useful information.
Except but don't buy a Floyd Rose because they suck.
Yeah, and I think that I thought that you were going with, hey, I changed my gauge of strings, so I'm getting a better tone. And, of course, obviously, you're getting that less woofy tone.
Well, yeah, no, it is a better tone. I mean, but that's not why I changed. I changed because I didn't want to feel like a wimp anymore when I was playing my low strings.
Well, that woofiness, yeah, I don't know. I think the heaviest low string, other than a bass, obviously, that I played is a 48.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the heaviest low string I played.
You don't go below 48? You don't go higher than 48? All right.
No, higher, yeah.
54 is not that high.
No, but it's all right. Typically, a 54 would be found on a set of 11s.
Correct.
I use so that's a 10. That's a hybrid set, like I use for my hybrid sets of 9s. I like to have a lighter my high 3 strings. The high B or high E, B, and G are typically.
Do you run 9s in your Gibson?
Yeah.
Oh, it's got to be like fucking rubber bands.
Oh yeah, it's like it's incredible.
You want to see how your fucking intonation's going to be off? Do that.
Yeah. But you know what's worse? I think I automatically change that by moving my finger just a little bit. I think I always hear it. It's my no to bend a little bit.
Yeah.
It's something I do. And the other thing that I do tend to do, and I know I do this a lot, is if you played my guitar acoustically, you'd go, man, what fret buzz is this?
Let's talk about acoustics here in a minute. So yeah. I play 10s, and I have in the past used as low as 8s, and I'll have to say, I played that white whale guitar, the Yngwie Malmsteen Strat the other day with a scalp fretboard.
With 8s on it?
No, it has 10s on it.
Really?
Like, yeah. Oh yeah, they come with 9s or 10s. So they come with 9s. 8. Oh yeah.
He plays 8s. Yeah.
He plays 8s and sometimes goes as low as 7.
Heavens. Yeah.
But
like big Billy Gibbons.
But what the fuck? Like, how does he even do that? Because it's already hard enough with the scalps make it harder to play in tune. Like, it makes intonation a nightmare. That is the difficult thing about the scalp fretboard. It doesn't make you faster. It makes you have to develop your ear. And so I was playing it and I was just thinking, like, if he puts fucking 9s on here, like, what in the hell is this thing playing like? Or 8s, rather. Just what in? I mean, Anyway, so you play 9s on your.
I played 946s. Yep.
Which is basically like 8s on a Strat. I mean, that's my interpretation of that. And then you play, you're running 9s on your Pari Smiths, which kind of makes more sense to me because they're somewhere between a Gibson. That's like running a 9.5 set on a Fender.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense to me.
Now, D'Addario says, right, it shows a tension chart, and it gives you tension of the strings.
Yeah,
given
the actual per pound.
Yeah, per string. Yeah, blah blah blah. So the set changes as you change. Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see if anything like that pops up. Anyway, yeah, I use 946s. I've used 946s for so long. I don't know if I would be able to go back to 10s. I know when this guitar came, it had 10s on it, and I did not like it. Well, but I should learn to play 10s. I really should.
Yeah. So I used. Let me take you on a journey. I'm going to take you on a safari. Back when I first started playing guitar, I used 9s on my Stratocasters, and I got to be honest. I went 9s. I went to 8s. I had 13s for a while. I ran 13s for like a year or two. Ugh. Dark ages. And then I went back to 9s, and I used 9s for like 4 or 5 years probably. And so 2 years on 13s, I had 9s and stuff in the early days, and then so by the time I'd played for like 5-7 years, I was back at 9s. I probably played like another 2 years on 9s, and then I walked into actually it was a tchotchke shop in the mall, and a couple of the guys I was hanging out with, they used to go in there and buy like the decorator swords, the collectible swords. So we were in there one day, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "You play guitar?" I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, he brings out his Stratocaster, and he hands it to me, and like I play for a minute, and then hand it back to him, and I'm like, "What kind of strings are those?" And he's like, "Oh, they're 10s," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like I've used 10s, and like I had 9s I've just used 9s, like it's." And he's like, "Listen," he's like, "I used 9s for like 20 years." And he's like, when I finally switched to 10s, he's like, for some reason, he's like, I just told myself it's going to be too difficult. Like, it's too much of a pain in the ass. I'm going to have to relearn it. I'm not going to do it. He's like, when I finally switched to 10s, he's like, I was like, why am I being such a fucking idiot about this? And so I went to 10s and never looked back. And now, I mean, I think I struggled guitar up with 8s a year or 2 ago, 3 ago, just to remind myself what an awful experience that is. And
so I'm sitting here looking at the D'Addario NYXLs, and 46s or 56 is considered the heavy bottom on an 11.
Yeah, 56 is a heavy bottom on 11. I don't know. So maybe they're 54s.
I was going to say, I wonder if they're 54 because
they're probably 54s because it's a box NYXL set. So whatever their skinny top heavy bottoms are.
Well, their skinny top heavy bottom for 10s is 1052.
Yeah, it must be 52.
Which makes a lot more sense. It just seemed like 56.
I used to use a set with 56s on it though.
I know a lot of guys who down tune.
Yeah, I would use them for drop D. That was basically the reason why I'd have it.
And the whole reason I'm thinking of going up a gauge or two, possibly 2, is because for the solo thing, I'll probably drop a full step.
Yeah,
to make it easier to sing.
If you want to go down to D, then you should definitely increase your gauges.
Oh, I'll have to increase the gauge, but I'm thinking I don't know if I should go to 10 or if I should go to 11. 10's probably good enough to drop a full step.
I would probably go to 11s.
Yeah,
because 10s. So even if I run 10s right now and I drop down to D, it's going to sound like fucking elastic bullshit. Every time you hit a string, it's like ridiculous. It is. It sounds like
cartoon.
Those things. You know those things on the back of the door that like the door stops and you like hit it with your finger and it goes. That's what it sounds like. It's what it sounds like. It is. That's why they make extended scale guitars, and that's why they make thicker strings. I guess I don't know.
I believe it.
Can we talk about that clickbait shit I posted for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Just because I want to fucking go off for a minute. I need to get mad this episode. I haven't yelled enough, and
we haven't really done anything exciting this whole episode.
All right. For those of you who stuck around for this, horse shit, what is going on YouTube right now? Like, honestly, Jim and I, you and I are very, very critical of these assholes on YouTube. Now, we obviously had Robert on from Robert's Guitar Dungeon. He's a super cool guy. His channel, because of the way it presents itself, he can get by with some of these things. And I want to preface that because I know we interviewed him already, and I want to make sure everybody understands like where our position is with him, because in relation to some of these other things I'm about to discuss, like it's off the deep end. So I stumbled on Riffs, Beards, and whatever the fuck his channel is, Fluff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
And he has this video out right now that's like the title of the video is the 5 most iconic amps. Right. No, not iconic amps that I like or anything like that. And then he proceeds to the first 2 amps he mentions are the Tiny Terror, which and then the Line 6 Spider.
Seriously.
You've got to be fucking kidding me.
Iconic to who? 6-year-olds?
No, dude. So here's the thing. Iconic means like it transcends time, right?
Right.
So if you go 10 years in the future, is anybody going to be talking about the Spiders from the early 90s? Only the fucking stupid asses that had them.
Right.
Like, I just don't see it. I mean, we all pine after a lot of the same stuff. I don't mean all of this, but I'm saying like there's a significant amount of guitar players that look for specific amplifiers, right? That's why the prices on deluxe reverbs from 65, which by the way was a very good selling amplifier for Fender, and there's many examples that exist. They're $3,500 to $4,000. In some cases, they're up to $6,000, depending on how clean it is. So, and there's a collector's market for these damn things. There is no collector's market for the Spider. Okay, I don't care what version it is. There's no collector's market for the Tiny Terror. Okay,
no,
the Tiny Terror is now discontinued. Like they make
for a reason.
All right, my experience with the Tiny Terror. I think I mentioned this on the show before, but I wanted one for a really long time. Like I had this fantasy about getting a really good clean amp and a really good dirty amp. And the Tiny Terror was like going to fit that bill because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on both amps. Like I was just going to try to split the difference. And I tried the Tiny Terror, and that fucking thing sounds like ass at lower volumes.
A piece of shit.
Unless you can push that thing to halfway or higher, you're wasting your time.
And even then, I know it doesn't sound like much, but that 1 watt amp, when it's pushed, that is loud.
No, that's the you're talking about the hybrid, the Micro Terror.
Oh, the Micro Terror.
I'm talking about the original Lunchbox Tiny Terror, the one that came out like 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking of Micro Terror, which is the one that. Never mind. Yeah.
I would still buy a Tiny Terror, but if I buy one, it's going to be like, okay, I have this Tiny Terror amp so that I can turn it up loud. Like I'm never putting the volume at like 9 o'clock on it. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be noon or higher because they sound like ass at low volumes. Now they make some other ones. They make the Dark Terror. They make the Dual Terror. Like those amps are okay. I don't have anything negative to say about them. They ushered in the Lunchbox craze, which is really cool. And I understand why somebody could say these are iconic because they ushered in the Lunchbox craze. So that's fine. Yeah. But I wouldn't put it at my 5th pick, right? If that was going to be one of the most iconic amps, that would be 6th or 7th. Because it is really important to what's going on in the amplifier world right now. But
they are still making the Tiny Terror for Jim Root. That's the one I was thinking.
That's the Jim Root Terror.
And it's 15
It's not the
watts.
same. It's not the same thing.
No. It's very dark.
Yeah, it's like the Dark Terror. So and I think they still make the Dark Terror too, but they didn't kill the line, but I think they kind of realized like the original Tiny Terror, when you could get these other ones, just didn't make sense anymore. So they decided to cancel it or whatever. I have a feeling Orange will resurrect that thing in a few years, and it'll probably be a whole like new ball of wax. They'll probably improve the circuit and stuff, but nevertheless, when he gets to the Spider, that's where he loses me. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? Like, why? This is not iconic. Look, I get it. Digital amplification. Like, that's a whole thing, and it's become this massive thing. Nothing that Line 6 has done is iconic, okay? Nothing. Not the Helix, maybe the Pod, but we're not talking about amp simulators. We're talking about amps, okay?
Right.
So that's why I'm like, God, I just don't agree with this at all, especially when you get through the rest of his list. He's got a JCM 800, he's got a Marshall Plexi, and a PV5150. Wait a minute. Where's Fender? Where's Vox? Like, are you out of your damn mind?
This is what I said. This was my response. If you're going to say 5 most iconic amplifiers, first of all, it would be hard to find 5 iconic.
I could see
amps.
doing 10.
Right. I could. Right. But if I was going to try to get into 5, obviously the Plexi would be up there. But where's the Fender Bassman, or the Fender Deluxe, or the Fender Blackface? I mean, you got your Blackface and Silverface. People that like either one. But I'm just saying that where are the Deluxes? Where is the Bassman? Where is the And if you were going to talk about small amps, where's the Blues Junior? I mean, here's the things that's what I didn't get. And the Vox. Vox is what I said was, like you said, they transcend. Iconic means it transcends. A person who doesn't even know what a guitar player, from a mailman, would still know what Marshall looked like.
Yep. That's why they still sell. When Marshall's putting out garbage, they're still selling because everybody knows that AC/DC and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and all these fucking bands over the years used Marshalls.
Absolutely.
They haven't made an amp like what those guys used in 25 plus years.
Yep. But they're still able to milk that brand. And then you've got Fender. Come on. Everybody that's seen a country western from hee-haw to now saw a Fender
somewhere.
Everybody that saw the Beatles or the Who or whatever, they saw Vox, and they saw help me out with the Who.
Marshall, Hiwatts. I mean,
Hiwatt. That's what I wanted.
The Who also used Marshalls.
Yep, Marshall.
We're all familiar with the Hiwatt thing because a lot of their filmed performances had Hiwatts, but they were using Marshalls in the beginning.
And didn't you could correct me if I'm wrong? Didn't Brian May use Orangeford? Was it?
No, Brian May is a Vox AC30 guy. Orange, actually, the biggest Orange user the biggest Orange user I knew of was Tony Iommi.
Yeah, Tony Iommi. That's what I was trying to think of. And it was one of the English band things. But again, people would recognize it right away. You know who killed that? Sharon Osbourne killed that because she insisted that everybody hide their amplifiers so everything could look like this. And then all of a sudden, everybody had to put on these productions. Yep. But the bands that continued to show their amps off, Hughes and Kettner, it's only been in the last, 25 years or so. But Hughes and Kettner, those blue tubes were glowing behind Alex Lifeson.
Fancy looking.
Yep. And that's the thing. Nobody that doesn't know guitars would be able to tell you a line 6 of any kind. It doesn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to tell you what that was. There's just very few brands where you can look at whether it was a live record album or photos from a live show. Like Peter Frampton comes alive. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. I could not get behind his list at all. If he's going to choose iconic, go with iconic.
Yeah, so let's do this now. If we were to choose 5 iconic amps, I'm going to choose mine, and then you can choose yours. Right. I would say the JCM 800. He got that one right. I would say probably a Marshall Plexi, probably the 1968 Super Lead, the 1959 SLP or whatever it is. And then, because we all know there are many famous people who use that amp, from Van Halen to Jimi Hendrix. And then I would say probably a Deluxe Reverb. I know a lot of people will say Twin, but I would say Deluxe Reverb because it's even in small clubs, like you'll see that thing. And the other thing about that amp, you could easily interchange that if you wanted to go and say Blackface Fenders, and because they're all very similar amps, like I think you could almost get a pass with that.
Yeah.
And then the Vox AC30. Obviously, it was the Beatles' amp of choice in the early days, and then everybody else's amp of choice since. It's been on countless records. It's been on countless stages, and then so I got Fender, I got two Marshalls, I got Vox. I mean, if I had to pick and I'm probably going to get shot here because I know there are big fans of the P5150 group in the group, but if I had to choose a high gain amp, I'd probably say the dual rectifier.
Yep, Mesa.
How many amps have copied the look of that thing? Even Petey's done it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that the 5150 is bad. It would definitely be in my list of top 10.
Oh, top 10? Oh, easily.
It would be number 6. It would be right there. Yeah. Followed by the Tiny Terror or some other lunchbox amp, But
yeah. I would have to say, okay, so you pretty much hit everything I think that I would have mentioned. I would have had the Fender Bassman in there.
I could have easily substituted that for the 1959 Super Lead, except that I think the amp needs a specific mention because of Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix, both using that amp to do completely different things.
Yeah. So I've got for a Fender, I would definitely, I'd have to have two Fenders and two Marshalls, because I would have the Fender, but I would probably go with brands. I would just say Fender, Marshall, Vox, and Orange. And then outside of that, honestly, it would depend on the genre. Because if I was in jazz, I would probably say the JCM, the Roland. If I was in,
as you bring this up, like that brings me to the bigger question, because we know like there's the big three guitar manufacturers, right? There's Fender, Gibson, and now PRS. Even though Ibanez probably produces more guitars than PRS does,
I'm sure of it,
and probably sells more, frankly.
Yeah.
But
why?
Yeah, and so look at the same thing. Like, I don't know that Orange is really that big of a company. I think Orange has gotten a lot of popularity because they hit the right check boxes at the right times in the last 10 years. Because I can remember when I first started playing guitars, Oranges were like mythological. Nobody had them. Like, you could never find them in stores. And when they
were hard to get.
When you did, they were always the Orange Crush, the solid state thing. So
yeah, when really what you wanted was a Rockaverb.
Well, I was looking at that time. I was looking for the they had a 15, an 8015, and it's still on my list of like, if I see one somewhere, I'll probably buy one. But it's an incredibly rare amp. I think they only sold 100 or 200 of them here in the States, and they're not. There's not like a collector's market for these. I see them go on Reverb eBay every once in a while for like $700. But I knew a guy that had one, and his sounded incredible. So I was like, if I ever see one, like, I'll have to pull the trigger. But nevertheless, you're absolutely right. I think I probably would pick them, but I think Mesa Boogie actually might kick them out, just because Mesa now is like the other amp company, and even though I don't want to say that, because I know Mesa's a small ass company, and they've gotten this big head that the rest of the industry has given them based on the fact that they sold a Guitar Center for a while. Yeah. And they were still small then. I mean...
Yeah. Well, again, I wouldn't have room for them on my top 5, because I would have two Fenders. I'd have the black... I'd have the... I'd have the deluxe reverb, and I'd have the black... Bassman. And then I would have the... JCM 800 and the Plexi, and then I'd have the Vox AC15, and that would be it. That would be the top 5 amps.
The only one I'm going to ask you to justify is the Bassman. So, like, I know the Bassman. Like, I know its lineage. I know where it comes from. Like, what bands make that iconic, though? That's what I'm asking. Like, how does that get its iconic status, other than we all know what a Bassman is?
Well, I can say this. I mean, I'm not sure which bands, because I wasn't one of those, hey, who's using it type people. But I know that in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the Fender Bassman was something that a lot of people wanted to get their hands on. And if I remember right, I thought Stevie Ray Vaughan used it for a while.
No.
On something, but
no, I could be wrong. Guy.
Because again,
Vibroverbs and super reverbs.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that followed who was using what at the time. All I knew was you saw a lot of them.
Well, the reason why you saw a lot of them, Jim, because they were fucking dirt cheap.
Yep. I know that.
And they were loud as hell, and they were a poor man's Marshall.
And I can say this because, all right, so I come up I come from a time when when you played with a keyboard player, there was a chance that guy was still lugging around a real a Hammond B3.
Yeah,
I mean,
he had to rent a truck
like,
every time he comes over to jam.
Your keyboard player had more space than the drummer.
Yeah, because the Hammond's huge.
Space.
Dude, I wish I could find a guy that can actually play a B3. Because you know this, Jim, because you played with guys that used to use them. I mean, a B3 is not like any other keyboard instrument.
No.
They don't.
No. You have. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to defer to you. You're more of an expert than I am, but knowing the people that I've seen that actually use them and watching how physical they actually have to get with that thing, and it's a whole nother animal. And I'm sorry, but a digital Hammond is not the same thing.
No. I mean, if you look at the Hammond, first of all, if you just Google one and you look at it, there are knobs on there that it's like, unless you've been playing it for a while and you know what is what, you're not going to know what the hell those things are. And you had these things you pulled out.
Yeah, that's the drop bars for the harmonic content.
Oh my God. And you had 2 sustainers and you had, it was like flying a plane to play one of those.
When I was in college and I was taking keyboard classes, I was thinking about looking to get one. And I begged off because really the sound I was after was the Deep Purple sound, right? Which is basically a guitar. I mean, the way he's using it, he's got the harmonics set up to sound like a guitar, and he's playing it into a Marshall stack on like Machine Head, for example. And I was like, I could do that on guitar. Why the hell would I want to buy a Hammond? Like, it's not necessary. Now I might buy one of those little Mel 9 or not the what's the key 9 C9 or whatever the Electro Harmonics pedal with the Hammond simulator in it.
Yep.
Yeah, I might buy one of those though.
All I can say is that when you would watch a person playing a B3, there was a lot of physicality going on. When you were moving, your sliders, you were playing the key, and then you had those black keys that were way down here, that were for that real, Well, it was something to be seen, and most guys that rolled them in, they had these big, huge cases, and so you had these huge casters.
Yeah.
I just can't see, like, okay, so I'm a small town boy for the most part, although I've been in the city. I've never had to see somebody to move them in a walk up, but some of the horror stories I hear from my New York City friends, they had to move them up walk ups or down into basements to get them.
Oh yeah. And
what?
And it's not just the organ. The fucking cabinets for them. The rotating speaker cabinet. As in giant fuck motor, okay? Inside a solid wood box with a 15-inch speaker that spins, okay? It's all mechanical.
You had this big motor.
And it's really tube. Heavy. It's tube.
Oh, no thanks.
So there's a company here in Illinois that makes they make I think it's a Scanner Vibrato Reverb. And what they did was they took the Scanner Vibrato Reverb circuit out of, I guess it came out of the organ itself, but I thought it was out of the cabinet. And you can buy this thing, and it's in like a glass enclosure. Yeah, dude, it's like I think it's $1,500, but the sound of it is out of this world. And I honestly, if I have enough Gearfest money left over. If Sweetwater can't woo me away from all my funds, I might actually buy one just because, like it would. Yep. It would just be one of those frivolous purchases for the studio. Coolest fucking thing on earth. That sound of that thing. But so I knew a guy when I was in high school who he was the same grade as me, but he was like he had early dismissal and he was actually working full time outside of school, and I used to talk to him on. I think it was Instant Messenger. This is a long time ago. And he, one night we were talking and he goes, yeah, he's like, I got a Hammond today. I'm like, what? He's like, I got a rotating speaker cabinet. I'm like, oh, that's no big deal. But then later on, like I got to thinking about it and I'm like, wait a minute. I looked it up on the internet. I was like, oh my God, Like, these things are like 3 feet tall and like 2 feet wide. Like, what the hell is he putting this thing? You know?
Oh yeah.
He's talking about taking it to gigs and stuff, and I'm like, you're insane.
So I just sent you a picture of an organ I actually learned to play when I was a teen.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just want you to see that thing.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
No, dude, I've sat behind him. Like, I know.
Yep. And so it's just I can't imagine trying to make, now of course a Hammond is smaller than that, but still I can't imagine trying to make that portable.
Well, that's what the Hammond was like. The Hammond was attempting to emulate like a pipe organ.
Right.
I mean, it's what it did.
Right. And my pipe organ, you used pedals, you pumped them to get the air moving.
All right. Since we're talking about Hammonds, and we're going to close out the episode, we're an hour and 4 minutes, just so you know right now. But since we're talking about Hammonds, I want to bring this up because I think this is really important to point out to guitar players. We are the Practical Guitarist podcast, and I feel like we really need to bring this up for everyone. So, old Hammonds and stuff like that, these guys that used to play them, a lot of them have just converted over to using either a digital Hammond or they're using a Nord, Nord with a Hammond voice, or they got, some sort of MIDI sequencing thing going on where they can use, a Hammond virtual instrument or whatever to get these sounds. And it's really kind of funny because we as guitar players, we're so fucking esoteric. Like, how many guys do you know, and I mean this for our listeners, not just Jim, but how many guys do you know who are, I'm not playing any deluxe reverb reissue, I'm going to buy the original vintage model.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not the same. It's not the same. Look, I don't care whether it's the same or not. The reality is, the only one you're appealing to is yourself. Maybe one guy in the room who's got his arms crossed because he's another fucking guitar player will be able to tell the difference. Maybe.
And who's there going, yeah, mine's better because it's got blah, blah tubes.
Yeah, right, or whatever. Like, I got new old stock tubes. Like, look.
Mine's a 62. That's a 61. What a piece of shit.
I'm not trying to harp on guys like Nick. Like, I get it. Having vintage guitars is cool, but I don't own anything vintage. And there's a reason for that. I don't want the upkeep. I don't want the insurance cost. And frankly, I think it's esoteric bullshit a lot of times. I mean, so the kind of stuff that you guys, specifically the Nick collects, a lot of that's like Gibson doesn't make this anymore, or they never made it like this again kind of deal. Where it's, I mean, look, if you're buying a 59 Les Paul, you can get pretty close to a 59 Les Paul right now.
That's right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to be the same, but you can get pretty damn close.
Yeah, you don't need to spend $500,000 on it.
Right.
You could get it still for a few $1,000s. If you really, really want that 59 reissue, that reissue is close enough.
So Fender has, and I'm entertaining this thing. This is in my short list of amps I'm going to look at when I'm at GearFest. Gosh, it's so far away. It's like 10 months away, and I'm still talking about like it's going to be like in a couple weeks. I'm entertaining the Deluxe Reverb Custom, right? The new one they came out with from the Custom Shop, this hand wired. Yeah. And I'm only entertaining it. I honestly, it will be a hard sell, and this is my pledge as a practical guitarist to everyone. It would be a hard sell for you to get me to believe that it's worth $3,000 as opposed to buying the reissue for $1,000. Like, it just. But I am going to demo them both. And if there is a difference and it's significant enough, and I feel like, I want this to be an heirloom amp and it's something I'm going to keep forever, then I'll buy the $3,000 one. I will probably hate myself for it, but in 20 years when I still have it, maybe I'll be like, I'm really glad I bought that one because they don't make those anymore. Like, kind of deal. I don't know. It's just, it's a whole thing that other musicians do not have these problems. Keyboard players, they don't care about what fucking cables they use. They don't give a shit. And they don't give a fuck about their cables. They don't care about any of that little micro shit. Just like we had the pickup discussion, and I know I said I was going to address that in this episode, but I think we're going to save that for the next one where we address how we kind of twisted things around a little bit and just kind of just touch on that topic a little bit in the next episode. But we worry about the smallest shit. Like, what jacks has that got on it? Because those are tone jacks. Like, what the fuck? No, are they solid? Do they work? That's what you should worry about. Are they going to stand up to abuse? That's what other musicians worry about. They don't worry about, oh, this is going to color my signal. They're like, you got EQ on the board, just adjust it. It's fine. Make it work.
Yeah. And I have to laugh because the same people are sitting there telling you, oh, you know what? Doesn't matter what pickups you use. Are the same guys, and I'm talking about the pros that are the YouTube channels and so on and so forth. The same guys that are going, but you really need to buy this $50 cable.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
You want to talk about
you tell me your cable is more important than your damn pickups? And listen, Jim, you know this as well as I do. I have nice cables. I buy nice cables. I don't buy them for sound. I buy them for reliability. But so for me, it's, I hear people like, oh, I got to swap out these pickups or I got to get this magic fuck cable. Like, what does it do? What does it do? Does it come to your house and does it massage your damn feet? Because it's better for that amount of money.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm all for paying people a living wage. I get it. Like, you can't sell cables for dirt cheap and not have them made in the third world. I understand that. The problem is we have these companies that are predicated on the fact that this is going to improve your tone.
Right.
How much? I think the industry needs something. And I'm going to leave us on this final thought. Wouldn't it be great if the industry had a rating system that attached to every item that guitarists use, there was a percentage that said, this is how much it's going to affect your tone. 3%, 1.5%. Cables, 0.7%.
Yeah, exactly.
Strings, 0.2%. Okay. Picks, 0.5%.
0.5%.
You're gonna get, and I'm gonna be honest with you. We did our pick test, our string test. It's gonna be out soon. Jim and I have been talking about the logistics of how we're gonna prepare this thing and how we're gonna get it out. Strings make less of an impact than the pick you use. Okay.
Yeah.
And I knew that going into this, and it only goes so far in as to say it has to do with what material the strings are made out of too. So if you go from nickel to regular, like what we use now, the modern stuff, yes, your tone's going to change pretty significantly coming out of the guitar. But again, we're talking almost infinitesimal gains. And that'll make a bigger difference. But your pick will actually change your sound more than your tone, or more than your strings will. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. Yep. And so, cables, strings, picks, pickups, in that order. We're going to address the pickup problem right now. We're 12 minutes. As long as we get it under an hour and a half, we're fine. We're an hour and 12 minutes. I only need 5 minutes to talk about the pickup thing.
Okay.
Jim's he's in the back seat right now. He's like, oh my God, where the fuck are we going? Listen, all right, so I'm going to go in the hierarchy here. But I started a minute ago. Hierarchy. So we're going to start. We're going to say
cable, strings, pickups.
Cables, strings, pickups, tonewood. No, actually probably tonewood before pickups.
Tonewood, yeah.
And hardware before pickups. All right. And then pickups, effects processors. So that includes your regular old effects pedals too. And then your amp. Okay. Your speaker cables down there with your other cables, like way in the beginning. Your power cables down there with your other cables way in the beginning of the hierarchy here. And then your cabinet and your speakers. That's the order in which you should be changing things in reverse. So you start with your speakers and your amp and your cabinet. If you want to change your sound radically, you go from that direction backwards. Because I'll be honest with you, I have done it. I've attacked this problem from every possible avenue, starting from picks and strings, and going so far as to be the scientist about it and do A/B testing recorded A/B testing of picks, right? And I found that the things that actually matter, the things that matter most, the things that will get you the biggest gains for the least amount of money, are your speakers, your cabinet, and your amp. Okay, your effects processors, bullshit. If your amp is good, you don't need them anyway. I know that people are going to be like, blasphemy, you're a fuzz user. I completely agree. Like, I can't go without my fuzz, which is why it's just behind all that stuff in the hierarchy here. But the whole thing is, if I have a shit amp, my fuzz pedal is going to sound like ass. There's nothing I can do about it. It has to be that way. So if you're looking at your rig and you're going, man, I really don't like the sounds that are coming out of it, spend the $100 or the $50 to get yourself a replacement speaker, or spend $150 to get yourself a replacement 1x12 cabinet, or even go so far as to buy yourself a big 412 or something. You know, obviously you're going up in money, and then as you get your amp, that's where you can spend the big bucks. And then you get into the smaller stuff that doesn't fucking matter. And I don't know how many guys I've seen in the gear page or other places that will go out and they will spend $500 on whatever fuck bridge will go in their fancy Jazzmaster or whatever to solve some problem with the Jazzmaster design. And I point my finger directly at Mastery. The Mastery bridge is not $500, right? I think it's like $200. And I've heard people literally say, if you're going to have one of these offset guitars with the funky bridges, you have to have a Mastery, because the bridges are so esoteric. And then there are guys in the other camp that are like, why would you ever change the bridge on these? I just look at the whole situation and I go, look, that's not your problem. Like, the reason the guitar doesn't sound the way you want it to is because there's something else up the chain. It's all fucked up. You know, don't spend $250 or $300 on a bridge and a guitar that doesn't sound like you want it to begin with. Project guitars, Jim. Like, this whole concept comes from this idea that we're gonna take shit and we're gonna polish it into gold. Yep.
But the idea of you know what? We'll save it for the next cast. I think. I'm just saying, because I have stuff that I want to say. It's going to take more than 10 minutes.
Jim's rebuttal's coming in the next cast. Right. And I've been David.
And I've been Jim.
And we've been the Practical Guitarists. And we're out.